about music. You will be inspired to think higher, realize your gift. Join the music and Michelle and Gina. Turn this up and through your speakers. It's the music of music.
And good evening. It is the Muses Behind the Music, and I am your host, Michelle Fallon. I'm excited tonight. I know I say this every single time that I am doing this podcast, vlogcast, because I really am excited about having conversations with people and just being connected. I was just sharing with Robin a second ago that it's really my nosiness. She called me being inquisitive. That was a kind word, but my father and mother said I was nosy from when I was born. So I'll take both words. All right. I'm matriculating to be more inquisitive than nosy, but I'm excited because this is a friend, and what a beautiful, beautiful soul this is. That if you come in contact with Robin, you are just going to feel the love and the energy and just God, the presence of God on this woman. Does it mean that she hasn't gone through stuff? Absolutely not. But she chooses to live in that posture. And to me, that's what's so incredible and important. Hey, Robin, how are you?
Thank you so much, Queen Michelle. I am honored to be here. I am speaking to you from Atlanta, Georgia. So thank God for technology, okay?
Yes,
That we
yes,
can be
indeed.
miles and miles apart and still be connected, not
Yeah.
only in the spirit, but through fiber optics and all the wonderful, all the wonderful advancements that we have today. I am so grateful for
Thank
your
you, God, for
time. Thank you,
technology.
Jesus.
And,
Okay.
right. And I'm not the best. Y'all, you already know I say it all the time, and I'm going to stop saying it because I believe how much words are power. And oftentimes we'll sit in the negativity of it instead of saying to ourselves, "Oh, I'm going to get better. I'm not the best at this, but I'm in the process of getting better." So that's what I'm going to say about technology and me and our relationship that we have with one another. But I want the Muses who are listening and they are in and they are watching. Hello, Deetra. Hello, Patrick. D. McCoy. Patrick, you know, I always say that when I say your name, I got to say the whole entire thing.
Absolutely.
You know, it doesn't feel right unless you say Patrick D. McCoy.
D. McCoy, yes. Yes, that's what I
Absolutely.
love.
So, for those of you who do not know this beautiful soul, and I call her a healer, I believe that that is a gift that she has amongst all the other gifts as being a musician and being a nurse and being a mother and a friend and a daughter. If you've ever just read her Facebook posts and such an eloquent writer,
Thank you.
sis. Yeah.
Thank
Have you ever
you.
gotten into writing?
No, not formally. It's, when you're a muse, you're a muse. You do what comes to you through the spirit. So,
Yes.
I believe that all of our gifts are connected.
That is beautiful. I'm so glad that you said that because when I was reading your bio, as you said, all of our gifts are connected, right? At the end of your bio, you used this sentence, and I'm going to read the sentence. And you said an interesting twist in her career. And I actually, who am I? But I'm going to say it. I don't consider it to be a twist. I actually think it's just a part of the whole. That you being a NICU nurse, that's a part of your calling, as well as all of the other awesome giftings that the Creator has endowed upon you. I, you know, and that's why I say, who am I to speak? Because you might not define it that way, and I'm just gonna rock with however you define you, because you've had that intimate conversation. But for those who don't know, she is a violist, and she's newly based in Georgia. Why did you move and leave us here? Why Georgia?
Oh,
Why Georgia? What took you out to Georgia?
why, Georgia? First of all, I have to say, I have always been a Northeast baby. I have never lived south of the Mason-Dixon line ever. So it would take a lot
Mm,
to transport me from, and all of us, right? From somewhere you're comfortable,
yeah.
where you're familiar, to go into the unknown, the wilderness, which is where I call this stage of my life. But really, it was my family. You know, my mom relocated to Georgia
Okay.
in 2015, um, following my parents' divorce, and they were married for 36 years. And I'm
Wow.
saying that not to spread their business, but just to say that they did the best they could.
Yeah.
For my
Yeah.
brothers and I, they held on. But when they decided to make that difficult decision, um, you know, my mom, she had to pick up and start over. And I did the same thing in moving to Georgia. I
Wow.
decided to pick up and start over because I saw a physical decline in her
Mm-hmm.
that warranted the the timing, which is never right. Timing is never right. So it seems to
Mm-hmm.
us.
Mm-hmm.
But when God says move, you just move. Nothing else made sense. I left behind, you know, the rest of my family,
Mm-hmm.
reluctantly. Um, all of my musical friends and family
Yeah.
and associations that have been long-standing and still are, thank God, because they're authentic and loving. Um, so I find myself still traveling to make music in Maryland, but
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, I left my job in the emergency room in Baltimore. Everything that seemed secure, I just left behind. And I said, if God provided in this season, He'll provide in the next season. And I
Yeah.
need to go look about my mother, make sure that she's okay. I need to look about my brother, my younger brother, who has some health challenges as well.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these things will come back and more. And they have, and God has been so faithful to my family, and I'm happy to say that I'll never regret that decision to take two suitcases and my
Yeah.
child
Yes.
and my
Yeah.
viola
Yeah.
and my violin and just buy that one-way plane ticket in faith and find a new path for myself. So it's been scary,
Mm-hmm.
but it's been exhilarating because just like being a muse, it's a walk of faith. You don't
Yeah.
know when the next gig is coming. You don't know what the next day is going to bring. You don't even know if there is another day. But you give thanks and you make the most of each moment because that's the gift of your presence in the moment, the people,
Yeah.
the relationships that we cultivate. That to me is what life is all about. Everything else is superfluous. Everything else can be um, traded out. But
Mm-hmm.
my relationships are what matter the most. Like I'm sitting here with you because
Yeah.
we have a relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that to me is so vital. That's why I give thanks every day. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I'm
I
here.
love it. I
I'm
love
trying
this.
my best to make it do what it do.
That's my statement right there too. Just, make it do what it do. And God, you do what you do best through me while I'm trying to figure out making it do what it do, right?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
love I love what you said that being a muse is a walk of faith. I'm gonna have to sit in that for a minute because it really is. I don't know if I don't know if a lot of people will even consider themselves to be muses. Um, Sometimes they don't even recognize the influence and impact that they've had over people's lives. But
Yes.
that was the very first thing. And we were with Patrick D. McCoy when I met you. We were doing a event for Kappa with Terry Allen's group, and it was like a workshop, not workshop. It was a conversation that we were having on music and the life and so forth and so on. And immediately in meeting you and feeling your energy was like whoosh, wash over. It just washed over like literally light and love. And I know that in difficult moments, even as you share the life journey of your family in that situation, that you had your own reckonings to go through, the emotions, and probably are still at a level and process of dealing with everything. How can I get a little personal? Here's my nosy. How did you, after all of those years, how were you as an individual towards just the idea of that happening? Because there are people who are listening in today who are thinking of it, who have gone through it with their family members. I was just talking today to a girlfriend of mine about experiencing that same feeling of saying, it would have been better had they years ago just like, I know a lot of people say, I'm here for the kids and da da da. So I also have been married, divorced. So how were you processing all of that with this responsibility still? Because, being a healer and on your own journey, you still have to tune in and deal with your own issues and struggles.
Yes, that's a brilliant question. And it's actually, um, it's more of an onion because it has so many
Mm,
layers. And if I might unpeel a few of those layers, I will
mhm,
say that we're all healers because our first
mm.
responsibility is to have conversations with God so that we can heal ourselves.
Yeah, I like
And
that.
in order to have intrapersonal relationships, we have to have a very, very clear interpersonal relationship. And it's
Mm,
vice versa, it's reciprocal. I cannot sit next to someone, whether I'm a nurse, whether I'm a muse, whether I'm just a sister walking down the street, if I haven't had conversations within myself to assess how am I feeling? How am I responding to the
mhm,
environment around me? And to be sensitive enough to respond. It's so easy to tune everything out and become just worrisome about your own
mm.
situation. If I could depart for a moment, um,
Sure.
I had a, I went on a little trip, a little excursion with my mom and my daughter this weekend, and it was beautiful to just get away. We
Mhm,
all like to escape. But the biggest thing that made an impression on me was walking through the airport, how zombie-like people have become. Um, just in our movement,
mhm,
I'm
mhm,
pushing my mom in a wheelchair. My daughter is trying to figure out what space she should occupy as we navigate through the
mhm.
crowds, which are, of course, growing because people are traveling again. But it just astounded me to see how few people were making eye contact, were, paying attention to where they are in space.
Mm.
I am very intentional about seeing people, trying to see and hear. And as muses, that's what we are trained to do,
Yeah.
but it goes beyond training. It has to have intention. It
Mhm.
has to have the desire. I have to be passionate about wanting to communicate. I have to be passionate about wanting to listen. I have to be passionate about being comfortable with silence
Yes.
and knowing that when I say something, it has to be received.
Yes.
And then I, in turn, have to receive what someone says to me. And then there are, ramifications with communication at all times. So, how do I prevent myself from becoming numb in a
Mm.
society where people want to just get through pain? They
Yeah.
want to put band-aids on it, put patches on it, medicate, uh, self-medicate with drugs, alcohol, whatever it may be, shopping, whatever an addiction,
Mhm,
addictive behavior.
mhm.
happens as a result of pain.
Yeah.
So for me, this life is just about how do I manage my pain so that I can help manage others' pain. And
Yeah.
I'm doing it at the same time. I don't do it first and then I address someone. If I'm walking with you, if I'm walking out onto stage with my instrument, I'm walking onto that stage as a vessel, and I'm someone who suffers. I'm
Mm-hmm.
someone who
Mm-hmm.
has been beaten by life, but I
Mm-hmm.
choose to live. I
Yeah.
choose to have an abundant life. And I thank God for every moment because abundant doesn't necessarily mean big.
All
It
right.
just means pregnant with gratitude. That's when I can say, I'm living. So when I'm taking care of someone as a nurse, when I'm taking care of my mom as a daughter, when I'm taking care of my daughter as a single mother, when I'm taking care of my friends as a shoulder or a rock, you know, I have to take care of myself at the same time and be cognizant that I'm not above anyone else. I'm
Mm-hmm.
walking this journey too, and we might as well do it together in harmony.
Yeah. Yeah. Where'd the sensitivity begin?
That's a great question. For me, sensitivity is it's an awakening. I think that everyone has a level of sensitivity. I think that a lot of artists are endowed with a great degree of sensitivity.
Mm.
And I would even argue that being an amazing artist isn't about technique, although technique is important because that's where, we build based off of discipline. But for me, it's about having a sense of responsibility in how I respond to people. Um, I feel that the common denominator between people is pain. And I say
Mm.
this with great intention
Mm-hmm.
and perhaps repetition because I say it a lot. And I always felt that way, even before I started in my nursing journey.
Mm-hmm.
And like you very astutely said, um, everything for me is a spectrum. Every gift that God has given me is part of the core of who He created me to be.
Yeah.
And it just has different branches: nursing, music,
That's it.
writing, yoga, hugging
Mm-hmm.
people. These are little things, but they are all part of the same tree. There's the root of love and communication and presence. So,
I almost feel like everything that you are saying that we as artists, I don't care if you are a musician, if you're a sculptor, a painter, if you're in arts administration, all of these words, sensitivity, awakening, pain, intentionality, uh, presence, that these are really the things that we ought to bring to the stage. We ought to bring to our gift in whatever it is we do. If we're a writer, writers have a tendency to go away and to sit with themselves, because you're so right. That's where it starts. It starts with the self awareness so that they can actually communicate some journey that they want their readers to go on, through words on a page. When we go up as artists, when we play, I always say to my students, when you are standing on the stage, it has got to be more than the technique. Technique is,
yes,
you're right, I'm with you. It is so important. But don't get lost into that because you're delivering a message. What,
yes,
and it's your message that you're trying to get across. And then it's whatever it is that the creator is working, the universe is working through that moment for the message of that person. And everybody is going to hear it and feel it and respond to it differently. It might be encouragement for one, it might be reconciliation for another. We could think of so many different adjectives in there, but wholeheartedly, I'm like, I got goosebumps when you were talking about this. I'm saying, absolutely, that's what we're called to do. And I so want the artist to get that. I want
yes,
us to really get that making the music together. It's fun, but we've got a bigger responsibility
Yes.
to
I
it.
could not agree more. Hallelujah.
Oh, hallelujah.
And my Queen Michelle, I have to just piggyback because it's a responsibility and
Mhm.
it's a calling. It's about purpose. You're
Absolutely.
born with a little tiny seed within your soul that tells you why you're here. We all
Mm,
have it, but not all of us get to the place where we're quiet enough to hear that voice and to
yeah.
follow the guidance. And you don't even have to be able to see so many feet ahead of you to know that this is why I'm here and this is what
Yeah.
I have to do. You don't have to know every step. As long as you take one baby step at a time, that's about fulfilling purpose. And that's
Absolutely.
why I love the name of this show,
Thank
because
you.
I honestly and very intentionally stopped calling myself a musician about 10 years ago.
Mhm.
And I purposefully started calling myself a muse because for
Yeah.
me, it's all about divine connection, that
Mhm.
vertical connection that I have with God, that
Yes.
He put me here to be an instrument. I happen to play instruments, but I am the instrument.
Yeah.
I am the clay.
Yes, 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 yeah. And I heard someone a long time ago talk to me about how the body is the instrument, the two eyes, the ears, the mouth, the heart, and the hands. And I thought, that's it. We're walking instruments.
Yeah,
And I think that when you get to another level in spirituality, in connection, in that vertical relationship, then you can identify all the more with who you are, the shell,
absolutely.
and what it is that the soul and the spirit have been ordained to do through the
Yes.
shell while we are here. That is so good. Listen, you have been with a lot of people as I'm reading this, and I need the muses to know I'm diverting, but I'm gonna come back to this. I want to know out of some of these people that you have listed, because I know you haven't listed them all, but I want to know out of people like Jill Scott and Clay Aiken and Aretha Franklin. I don't even have to say her last name. All I got to say is Aretha and Ty Tribbett and EWF. For those of y'all who don't know, that's Earth, Wind, and Fire. I mean, come on. And Ruben Studdard, Stevie. I didn't know about Stevie. Out of all of these great people, who was the one the most like the performance that you were just completely floored, enamored? I know you were grateful for everyone, but the one that you just really like, this was dynamite.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I can't believe you named all those people.
Oh, no, no, no. I didn't name all of them. I missed out on some of these names.
I honestly, I have to say, God is amazing because each of those experiences brings a different gift, a different
Mm,
blessing.
mhm.
You never leave. Just as an audience member enters a performance and they walk out changed, that's what we want. We're changed too. So I have to say that as much as the audience is blessed, you know, I'm blessed sitting behind this great artist who I admire. Um, and I have to particularly name Stevie Wonder.
Uh-huh.
I have
Uh-huh.
loved him since I was a child.
I
I
love it.
always say I was born in the wrong decade. Like, I
Right.
always loved him when, it wasn't even, he wasn't even, I would,
Yeah.
generations. I adore him. And what I love about him is not only his voice, not only his staying power in the industry, but his integrity,
Hmm.
his creativity, and more important than anything else is his humanity. Um,
Hmm.
he's just a larger than life soul. He's
Yeah.
extremely gifted by God, that prodigious talent that can be admired. That's the least of him. He's a beautiful soul.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
when I had the honor of sitting on that stage with him, not once, but twice. Um, and I'm not saying that to glorify
Oh
me.
no, no,
I
but
am
go on.
saying that
Mm-hmm,
because God is so good that I had that opportunity. All I could do was just thank God,
mm-hmm,
in that moment, that here is this soul who has used his voice
yeah,
across generations,
mm-hmm,
you know, to just spread love.
yes,
And that's his purpose, and he's so steadfast in it. And so for me, that has been the most biggest, left the biggest impression on me, in terms of wonderfully, uh, you know, memorable experiences for
mm-hmm,
me to work with
yeah. And,
major
and
artists.
those are the artists that I want to always surround myself with. And
Yeah.
I want to know that I am becoming more and more. And I also want to plant the seeds into the young budding artist that your artistry has to be one that is about something more than just making a hit song.
Yeah.
It's got to be about reaching something that's deeper than you and making money. And that's why I've loved people like Stevie and Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston,
Yeah.
who has blessed this earth. And I could name people in the jazz industry
Hmm.
and in the gospel industry who have just blessed people with their humanity, that
Yes.
they were about touching the lives in some facet. It was God ordained that they were coming through those vehicles. We did a performance with Matthew Whitaker, Children of the Gospel. And we sat down the next day with Matthew, which was dynamic to sit down
Mm.
with him. And the kids got the opportunity to talk to this young, incredibly gifted brother who was
Yes.
relatively their age, and for him to pour into them. And one of the young ladies asked the question, do you always incorporate gospel music into your sets, because this is you always coming back to God. And I love what he said. He said, I believe that in all music that we can find God,
Yes.
and that I'm a jazz musician and God lives there too. And I was like, hot dog, that's what we got to
Okay.
we got to know. The creator who has made all of this, because I believe
Yes.
God is, all over, like bopping to some awesome pop music.
Absolutely.
you know, but it's
God's
that
on the ones and twos, okay? Or for us, the twos and the fours. Okay, that's where we live, but that's another story.
I was like, don't talk classically. we live on the 2 and the 4. But it's okay as long we living on it all.
There it is.
And that's just so it's just so important. So I'm glad that you said it again, because I don't want for artists to ever feel like their music can't say anything. And we live in this generation, you know it, you see it, that this music is trash. A lot of the music that's coming out, it doesn't say anything. 20 years from now, we won't hear it. We're still hearing Stevie.
Yes.
Stevie was back in the day in the 70s. We still rocking to
Okay.
Stevie,
Right.
and we're still rocking to, Anita Baker, and
Right.
you the things that the music that had something to say, and in a time like today, what are you saying with your artistry? I just find that to be really crucial, that we have to make those deciding factors. Nina Simone
Okay.
basically had said, shame on you if you are an artist and you don't come out here and you don't make a stance to something, because it's your responsibility to do so.
Yes.
And so, I mean, I love that. And you take your music, this, not just this, your music into everything that you do. You created the founder of Musicians of Mercy. Let's hear that name again. The Musicians of Mercy. How beautiful. Woo! I heard the sermon one time, Robin, about the difference between mercy and grace by T.D. Jakes, and it blew my mind. I thought,
Yes.
okay, all right, Lord. So that's why
Yes.
that name rings so strongly. What and why did you decide that this was time? I need to do this. I need to bring this.
Thank you for even asking me. And I echo all of the sentiments that you just expressed because artistry is a responsibility. And if I could even truncate that word further, it's a response. You know,
Oh, okay.
we respond to situations with our voice.
Hmm.
And that's really what Musicians of Mercy is. It was my visceral response to the world. I was seeing, this was 2012, I was seeing
Hmm.
just devastation in Haiti after the earthquake,
Hmm.
tragedy. And that's not something that is new. But for me, in that moment, it was a watershed moment where I said, this is just so frustrating that I can sit here in my house with my instrument and I still feel like I don't have a voice. I don't have
Hmm.
finances or funds to fly over there and take care of people, which is what
Hmm.
I wanted to do. I don't have the ability to take in some of the children who I'm seeing who look just like me,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
And I bawled at some of the images that were flashing across the screen. And the news media is great for, giving us these images that
Hmm.
are, absolutely atrocious
Hmm.
and leaving us like that. And then how do we respond? Do we respond? Do we have avenues to even express, how we feel? Um, and at that moment, I felt this great weight on my shoulders. I don't have anything to give but my heart. And
Yeah.
what can I do to help make this better? I
Hmm.
don't have that much power, but I know lots of wonderful artists. Maybe I can organize a concert and
Hmm.
just bring people together. It's a healing space. And that's ultimately all that was intended. Our first concert was like 3 hours long, and it was in an old church in Baltimore, a beautiful church. And it was just like 75 friends of mine. I didn't have money to give. I just said, would you be willing to serve and give of your talents so that we can maybe raise some funds to send over to Haiti? Let's pick a charity. That's all it was, very grassroots. And
Hmm.
every single performance has been that, just, whether it's about raising funds or raising awareness to something that's happening in society, it's about a response
Yeah.
that happens to be an artistic response. And it ends up being healing, not just for those who attend, but those who are performing. We're sitting down, I might be sitting next to someone who is an amateur musician or a student musician
Hmm.
or a professional who happens to join, and we all have our humanity. We have different levels of, education or performance
Hmm.
experience. But guess what? In this moment, you're my stand partner, and we're making
Yeah.
music for a cause. And it's something that I'm passionate about. And again, it's not even about the music. It's never just the music. The music
Right.
is the vehicle. It's really
Yes.
about connectivity
Yes.
and
Yes. Yes.
humanity.
Yes. 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 I mean, this is what I live for. I'm so with you, and this is why I've always felt from day number one so completely connected with you. That it's a greater purpose. It's the purpose of humanity. It's the purpose of
Yes.
humanity. I'm going to tell you a little story. I'm going to digress for a moment, which is still kind of with us. And I didn't realize that you were a NICU nurse, and NICU nurses are near and dear to my heart.
Oh.
My oldest son was born 1 pound, 13 ounces.
Oh.
And yeah, and I'm telling you, Robin, I had the most incredible people, NICU doctors, Dr. Cherry, I can't remember your first name, but I'm shouting you out
Oh,
because Dr. Cherry at the Washington Hospital Center 22 years ago came into my room and he said one thing to me: do you believe in God? Yes, that's the response that I had, Robin, because I knew I was going to be all right.
yes.
Because I knew that God gave me this God-fearing doctor
Mm,
over my child that I had to get ready to get up and leave in the hospital. And then the NICU nurses, Nurse Jenny, who I went back and visited, who took care of me while I was in the hospital for 3 weeks, brought
wow.
me food every single night, home cooked meals every
Oh,
single
God bless
solitary
her.
night. Just unbelievable people that God put in the path. So when I saw that you're a NICU nurse, I nearly cried because I
Oh,
know that that's a part of the calling as well. Because I mean, you've got the parents, you've got these helpless babies, and
yes,
you've got the extended families who come through. They need people like you who know that it is so much deeper than about just the fine tune. Let me plug here, feed the. It you have to have the heart.
yes,
You have to have the passion. The I'm a healer. You know, you might not be able to bring your viola in there, but just the presence because you carry love and light with you, and the intention of what you follow through. Ooh, girl, it's blessing me. That blesses me
thank
so
you
much.
so much. And that
So
is
thank
so
you.
incredible for you to tell me that. I had no idea.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow, what
So
a
we have all
blessing.
kinds of, oh, it was a great blessing. I still talk about them like I know, like, and I so want to always go back and see. I've been back there
Oh,
when, Elijah was maybe about 10, and I would love to go back now. I don't know if they're still there, but
wow.
it was just awesome. It was awesome in that realm. Who are
Mm.
some of your muses? The people who have just, I know you can name your mom. I know you can name your mom. Who are some of the muses that have just poured into you?
Absolutely. I have to give a huge shout out to both of my parents.
Mm,
I would not be who I am without their sacrifice. Um, we were never rich, but my life has always been rich.
yeah,
They
yeah.
they gave out one funny story about my mom. She's such a strong Jamaican woman. I mean, she's just as
Wait,
proud.
let's stop there for a minute, honey, because everybody has to know that that is our other connection.
Okay.
We are Jamaican proud. Okay, okay. Let's keep going. Go ahead.
No, we can pause on that. But yeah, it's real. It's a
Right.
thing. I mean,
Yes.
to be infused with culture, the
Yes.
beauty and the richness of culture. My mom, I have so many idiomatic expressions that just live with me because of her and
Absolutely.
the influence that, she brought here.
Hmm.
Um, and one of my favorite stories just growing up was, we lived in this really tiny single family home when I was a child. And that for me was a mansion, because
Mm,
that it was our world and we had a great childhood, loving childhood, my brothers and I. And my mom, I remember one day we had nothing to eat in the house.
mm,
And we would always save coins and, just putting
hmm.
them in a jar or rolling them up, which no one hardly does anymore. But she got together and figured out all the coins that we had. We had $16. You would have thought that was $6,000 for me because we went to the
Right.
mall, we had Sbarro pizza. She just took us all around like it was so much money. In my mind, it was. It wasn't until
Hmm.
years later that I was realizing, oh, that was $16. I can blow through that at Starbucks now. But, but she made the most out of that. Or she would say she turned a nickel into a muckle. She made that
Hmm.
$16 work. And we
Hmm.
had an amazing day. So that's a picture, of my childhood. My dad always worked so hard. I always call the moments that I had with him, we would always go to the grocery store. I'd say, these are my weekly trips to the store. Just a
Mhm.
simple ride up and down the street, but he would share so much of himself with me. A lot of times they were stories he was sharing from his childhood where he grew up pretty poor.
Yeah.
Um, and those things just really gave me a foundation in gratitude.
Yeah.
There's something to me, one of the biggest things that I value most is gratitude. And I
Mhm.
try so hard,
Mhm.
probably pushing against a brick wall, but with my own daughter,
Mhm.
as a single mom, it's hard. You
Yeah.
struggle. But I try so hard to always remind her, please be thankful.
Yes.
You know, if somebody does something kind, please say thank you.
Yes.
Please see people when you walk down the street. So my parents are my biggest muses. Um,
Yeah.
and I have been very blessed that I have a very tight-knit family. So I always felt loved.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that everyone feels loved.
Absolutely.
That's where you develop a strong sense of self-love. And because of my parents, I have a very strong sense of self-love and appreciation, which has sent me on a journey to self-actualization. So
Mm.
that is something that's directly a result of their love. Even my beginnings with music, they saw me, tinkering around on this piano. They could
Right.
have dismissed that, like, oh, she's just but they invested what
Yes.
little they had to make sure that, what, let's put this child in piano lessons. And that was
Mhm.
the beginning of my whole life because
That's
that's
it.
where I found my purpose.
Yeah. I'm so with you on that. Kudos, mom and dad. What a
Yeah.
blessing. What an
Thank
absolute
you.
blessing. Robin, I look at your Facebook posts maybe every day.
Oh,
And I am completely impressed at the fact that you get your body contorted into all these yoga positions. And I was sharing with Robin earlier. I had said, listen, I when I was at Howard, undergrad years at Howard, I took a stretch class, and I quit that class in 2 weeks because that thing was so daggone hard. And I was like, I see you doing these poses in yoga, and I'm just like, where? I know it didn't happen overnight, So where's the love and the passion come from? And how have you implemented the principles of this art form, this body art form? And it's really a mind thing too. I know yoga it all comes into one. How do you implement it into your life for balance?
oh, it is all about balance. And balance, for me, the crux of balance is breath.
Mm.
Everything has to be connected to our breathing. Um, I will say that, I was never an athlete or anything like that growing up. I always loved sports. I always admired athletes because just like muses, that it requires a lot of discipline, self-discipline, and repetition. And it wasn't until, after I had my daughter and I was going actually through a divorce, um, I found that I had just reached a point in my life where I wasn't happy with where I was. So fast forward, I decided to make a decision. I said, you know what? I'm going to start with the physical to address the mental, the spiritual, the sadness, the loss. My marriage was crumbling, all those things. And that was another journey that I started. And
Love it.
I actually walked my way into, losing 30 pounds in a few months. I didn't change a lot about what I was eating, but it became more about, it wasn't about losing weight. It was
Hmm.
about losing baggage, letting go of the
Mm.
past, letting go of pain, working through the pain to get rid of it. And, you know, ended up losing 100 pounds without trying to. I became
Wow.
married to the idea that by doing something little every day, I can recreate my own temple. I can recreate my own uh, reality, changed
Wow.
the way I think about myself, the messages that I tell myself.
Yes.
And that became part of a fitness journey where, every morning I said, you know what? I'm going to move. I can move. I'm blessed to have life and breath in my lungs. So I started doing all kinds of things, and yoga came really just prior to the pandemic. I was already on
Really?
this, in this love affair with just movement in general. I've always loved to dance. People from my grad school days know that, I used to do all the salsa dancing, which is
Mm.
still, I love. Um, but a friend of mine actually on Facebook, who I still haven't met in person, she said, Robin, I really feel like with your peacefulness and, you know, you're
Mm-hmm.
naturally flexible. I feel like you would be great at yoga. And I just thought it was, nah, it's too hard. It's too slow. Um, I,
Mm.
I didn't think it would be interesting, but I literally just started looking at YouTube videos on practicing yoga, and I saw, oh, it's way more than just slow movement. In fact, it's not slow movement. I'm an artist. I can create a flow of
Wow.
whatever I want to do as long as I know, okay, some of these are foundational asanas or positions. So how can I create? So it became about painting and artistry for me. So I'm
Wow.
looking at what is a basic pose, a down dog or something simple. How can I make that even more interesting or beautiful? So, learning to practice yoga during a pandemic online and
Mm.
then attending my first class, believe it or not, in February of this year with
Really?
people. It was amazing because I literally just slid right into the flow because I had been practicing myself. So again, it's all about what do we do with the gifts that we have? What do we do with the time that we have,
Yeah.
the temple that we have?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where yoga for me it's a daily practice for me. And it's really my conversation with God through movement and artistry. How can I just paint? It's the same thing with music. I'm making sound. I have
Yeah.
the ability to use my fingers to create sound or to draw sound out of a piece of wood. But really, I'm the instrument. And it's the same with yoga. Um,
I would have never thought that this was something that's brand new because if anybody who is watching right now and you have seen Robin's posing, first of all, the muscular contrastities that look, girlfriend, I'm over here like, what is going on? Now, I can promise you, I am inspired every single day
oh,
that I look at you do that. Now, am I going to do that? Absolutely not. But what it inspires me to do is this. I'm on this other journey right now. So when you were talking about the walking your way into health, a couple of years ago, I had a doctor's appointment, and the doctor said, your blood pressure is a little too high. I'm going to put you on medication. I said, that's what's not going to happen. I am going to change my diet. It's going to become a
good
new
for you.
lifestyle of how I'm eating, and I'm going to lose some weight, and I'm going to get this together. Never had to be on blood pressure
Praise God.
medication because it came back down. Okay. But let me tell you, it's a constant journey because one of the things that I tell one of my good girlfriends who's online watching right now, she's my walking partner. I say to her all
Awesome.
the time, I'm getting into a mindset where I'd like to go into a different kind of eating habit, vegan, whole foods, plant-based, right? But it has to start here. And I know this because for me, I'm the kind of person that if I make a commitment to something, I'm all in, and I can't just do it half willy nilly. And right now, I am enjoying crumble cookies. I know you don't know about crumble cookies, but I ain't getting rid of crumble cookies just yet. And that's probably the problem as to why I couldn't get a couple of dresses over my kneecaps the other day. So I got to make some choices, Robin. I gotta start doing right by myself, and I
You are
know that I will get
hilarious.
there. She can tell you I'm so serious. I am so serious right now. So listen, I have one more question to ask of you, and you've probably even shared it in. Actually, I have two. You probably even shared it along the way. One of the things that I would like to make sure really took place in this season of the Muses Behind the Music is each guest who comes on just talking to us about something that happened in their life that they said, I told myself I could. I had a young
Mm.
student who, and I'll be brief with this, a young student who struggled with being extremely nervous and would cry first year in front of me. Second year got a little bit better, but could not hear anything coming out. And it kind of went all the way through this until the final year of being with me. And she came in front of me. And when she started to sing, I mean, Robin, this booming voice came out of
Mm.
nowhere. Myself and the other students started looking around at each other because we couldn't believe it. We were really in awe of what we were hearing. And I said, hold on, you've got to tell me what happened? Where did all this come from? And she said, this summer, I told myself I could.
Oh,
And that to me, Robin, forever, that will go with me. It was one of the greatest lessons that this young soul taught an older soul about
mm.
telling yourself you can. What can you share with us that has happened in your life that maybe somebody else has been through that same thing, or they can relate on some level and just recognize that I'm going to make it. I can persevere. I can tell myself.
That is amazing. I am so speechless, and I just have to say out of the mouths of babes,
Yes.
I think,
Yes.
youth can often be married to wisdom, and we
Mm.
often associate wisdom with age. Um, but I think children can be our greatest
Oh,
teachers.
oh, yes.
I think I say I can every day with intention. But I'll use a specific example, I think, with my own daughter. Um, and it's, quite personal, but I'll say that she suffers from a mental uh, illness that is very rare for children
Mhm.
to have, for it to come that early, I'll say.
Got you.
Um, and to watch your child,
Mm.
come out with 10 fingers and 10 toes, and you assume this is a healthy child,
Mm.
everything is normal. Samara is my daughter, which means protected by God. It also means black. Samara is my greatest teacher. She
Yes.
taught me that God says, you love the child I gave you, not the child you thought you were going to have,
Oh, come
not the
on.
child who is your opposite in many ways, not the child who, has had me rushing to the emergency room with
Mhm.
depression and spells of, um, other instability that while I had to be in the emergency room taking care of other people's children, I had to
Wow.
go rush out and take care of my own. Um, and I say that because um, there's no shame. There's
Yes.
no shame in recognizing that I have the most precious gift who happens to not look like other children. She
Mhm.
doesn't perform like other children. She has her own artistic and beautiful way of
Mhm.
being. And I get to love her through that. And she's made me a more sensitive artist, a more loving mother, a more selfless person, at least on that
Yeah.
quest to be
Mhm.
being selfless, because at the end of the day, it's not about me. Um,
Yeah.
I don't want to even entertain a romantic relationship that doesn't account for her and her
Yes.
unique needs.
Yes.
I don't want to even take a job, whether it's performance related or nursing, that is going to compromise the time that I
Yes.
have with her. So I really try to
Beautiful.
prioritize my life around just seeing a smile on her face, because it
Yeah.
means the world to me. And my parents did that for me as well, even though I didn't have those challenges. Um, but God always gives us what we are equipped to handle. So
Amen.
even when
Period.
I don't know what I'm doing, I just say, all right, Lord, I trust you.
Mhm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you will provide, and he always does.
And you
So,
know something too, Robin, I know this from being a parent too, that you said it about, them being the mirrors. You know, I hate it sometimes when I look at the behavior of my sons,
mm,
but I know that somewhere along the line, I'm seeing what I really hate that's
yes,
irritating me within me that I need to
yes,
change, I need to
yes.
fix. And sometimes I have the kind of kids who want to let me know. They let me know. They're very vocal. I don't know where they got their vocal ability from, but they're very vocal about letting me know what they see. And sometimes the truth hurts.
Amen. Amen. I
And it's
listen.
how we decide we're gonna take it and grow from it, or we just gonna push it to the side and act like it ain't really there.
That's
Those are
right.
those are the lessons that I've been learning. So I
Thank
love
you.
I love the relationship that I see with you and your beautiful daughter, who is your spitting image.
Thank you.
Your spitting image. And it's just wonderful. Last question. What would you share with the muses who are listening, the aspiring artist, the aspiring nurse, the aspiring human being? I'm aspiring to be human. That just hit me because so
Mm,
many people, I think that that's one thing that we have lost in this world today, the sense of humanity, right? What would you share with them? One piece of advice, love offering.
mm. Offer love, really.
Yeah.
Um, for me, there's an artfulness in loving. It's a practice,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to discipline yourself. You have to be able to then put that work, that inner work, into practice on the main stage of life.
Yes.
I believe that I don't live any day without giving thought to how am I treating someone else?
Mm,
How am I responding to someone else? Um, it's what made me want to be a nurse, to take
mm,
care of people. It's what made me want to be a muse, to be
mhm.
able to communicate the voice of eternity with the present tense. Like that, why do we do this? Why do we
Yeah.
put ourselves
Yeah.
through these routines? Because we have something to say. It's a greater message. And for me, it's all about love. So when I look at young artists, I love talking to young artists because for me, it's about find your voice and don't let anyone dampen it.
Yeah.
The world will try to manipulate your voice. Never lose that sense of that small voice that you were born with because that's your
Mhm.
gift.
Mhm.
It can always be refined. We can always turn the Rubik's Cube and change the colors, but that root that
Yeah.
you were born with, that's your voice, and that's what the world needs. One of my first mentors always said, there's room at the table for everyone in music. And I can
Mhm.
take off music, I can say that there's room at the table for everyone.
Yeah.
As long as we're open and we live in a way that allows people to find that voice and cultivate that voice and then share that voice. And it doesn't have to be perfect.
No. Yeah. I love it. I love it. Robin, I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you, Queen. Thank you. My heart, oh, it looks good. Woo! And even if it didn't, you know that it's still love. It's still love.
It's all love.
To all of the Muses, we have had a glorious time today with Robin Fay Massie. Hey, Robin, your name is one of those names too, like Patrick D. McCoy, that I got to say the whole thing. I got to say the whole thing. I was trying to like put things when I was writing things last week, and I couldn't do it without putting all together. I mean, it just flows that way. And
Thank
I
you.
know that people who are going to listen have listened to this are going to be blessed and touched and pull from it what belongs for you, whatever it is that will help you grow and flourish and press forward. I thank you, dear Queen, for being with us. And to the Muses, thank you so much for tuning in. Share this, love it, like it, subscribe to the YouTube channel, whatever you've got to do. I appreciate your constant, never ending support. I wouldn't be able to do this without you all. Until the next time, blessed be.